Do you have questions about how I'm living well with my MS using diet, exercise, sleep, and kindness through compassion and mindfulness? Yes. Yes, you do. Today, I'm excited to be answering some viewer questions. I love the community that we're building here and enjoy getting your questions and answering them. I've been living well with my MS for over 18 years, and I create content about how I'm doing that to help inspire you to make evidence-based diet and lifestyle changes to help you manage your symptoms and possibly prevent progression so that you can live well with your MS and chronic illness too. Let's jump right in. Cecil asks, how many times a week do you need to eat legumes as a vegetarian? Well, let's start with what legumes are. Legumes are plants that produce seeds that are nutritional powerhouses. They include beans and peas and lentils, and they're great sources of protein, fiber, B vitamins, iron, folate, calcium, and potassium. There's no set amount we need to eat, but most people associate them with a meat replacement for the protein. The average person needs 0.8 grams of protein per pound of body weight, and if you're more active, you could go up to maybe 1.3 grams of protein per pound of body weight. Lentils have 18 grams of protein per cup, and beans have about 15 grams per cup. But that's not the only source of protein in a plant-based diet. All plants have some protein, and I did a video about what I eat to stay healthy, and it shows a variety of foods I eat, and it dives more into the protein, and I will link it above and below. I would say that I eat legumes 4 to 6 times per week. Some other good sources of protein are seitan, tofu, quinoa, and whole grains. Herkay asks, do you have leg stiffness and weakness? How long can you walk when you go for a walk? And do you do anything for your leg weakness and stiffness if you do have those issues? I do have some stiffness and tightness in my left leg, and I can experience some weakness. I've been working on my fitness for a long time, and I can walk 3 or more miles at a time, about 5K. The things that I do to help with my leg are I stretch regularly, I work with a physical therapist, and exercise. My muscles can get tight, and doing daily stretching can help a lot. My physical therapist has given me specific stretches and exercises to help me with the muscles that I need help with. I exercise regularly to keep the muscles toned and flexible, and to keep my nerves firing. I walk my dog every day, I do yoga, I work with light weights, and I do Zumba. Exercise is the second best thing we can do to manage our symptoms besides medication, but we need to do it regularly. If we consistently work on staying fit and flexible, it will help a lot. And speaking of medication, I do take muscle relaxers at bedtime. Because my left leg can feel tight from spasms, the muscle relaxer helps me to sleep better. I recently did a video on the benefits of exercise, and I'll link that above and below too. Elena asks, what do you think about gluten and dairy? Let's start with gluten. People who are celiac or gluten sensitive should avoid gluten, but research shows that gluten is not necessarily a problem in general for people with MS. In this review, where they looked at 49 studies on gluten and MS, they found insufficient evidence to state whether gluten plays a role in MS. Approximately 1% of the population is celiac and 6% are gluten sensitive. Many people find that when they remove gluten, they feel better. They may be gluten sensitive, or they may be feeling better because they're removing a lot of the highly processed foods and food-like products that have flour in them, like cakes and crackers and white breads and other shelf-stable products. Many of these products have a lot of ingredients that may be contributing to people not feeling well. I do eat gluten, but I eat it in the forms of whole grain or sprouted grain breads or whole grain pasta, and I don't eat a lot of it. Oh, I do eat sourdough breads. Sourdough is fermented, and it breaks down a protein in flour called amylase trypsin inhibitors, ATIs, that may contribute to inflammation. Okay, what about dairy? I don't think dairy is good for people in general. We are the only species that drinks the milk of another animal, and we're the only species that drinks milk past infancy. Some studies show that more than 70% of the world's population is lactose intolerant. We're not designed to drink milk past infancy. Some of the problems with dairy consumption for people with MS is it's high in saturated fats, And diets high in saturated fats have repeatedly been shown to be associated with worse outcomes for people with MS. There's also a protein in dairy that's been associated with MS called butyrolfin. It's structurally similar to our myelin, and it may be causing our immune systems to mistakenly attack our own myelin. And casein, another protein in dairy, has been linked to inflammation and demyelination in some animal studies. Modern farming practices are also a concern. There are increased levels of antibiotics, hormones, and pesticides from the feed that end up in dairy and may also contribute to health problems. So I take a hard pass on dairy. DM asks, what do you think about juicing veggies and fruits for our challenges? Excellent question. Any way that we can increase our nutrients from fruits and vegetables is great. Juicing can be a part of a healthy diet, but we need to keep in mind that it removes the fiber, and fiber is really important to a healthy gut microbiome. Some studies show that 95% of the population is not getting enough fiber. I would recommend eating the fruits and vegetables in their whole and natural state, or in fruit smoothies that contain the whole fruit, and use juicing as a treat only once in a while. Adam asks, do you have any supplement or exercise suggestions to improve stamina whilst walking and standing? When looking at stamina, it's helpful to look at the opposite of it, fatigue. With MS fatigue, it's one of our biggest challenges. There are two primary causes of fatigue. Our nervous systems are working extra hard to transmit signals and to get messages where they need to go because of the damage caused by the lesions. This can use a lot of energy. The other and secondary cause is from living with our symptoms like pain and depression and interrupted sleep. These wear us down. There are a few things that can help with reducing fatigue and increase stamina. Eating a predominantly plant-based diet has been shown to help a lot with fatigue, and I'll post a few studies below and a link to a video I did on it as well. Next is exercising as we're able, especially functional exercise. I did a video recently with Dr. Gretchen Hawley where she talked about the benefits of functional exercise, and I'll link that above and below too. In it, she talks about how functional exercise can help. If we focus on specific exercises to improve walking, then our walking will improve. If we focus on exercises to help with sitting down without plopping or falling into chairs, then that will improve. Sleeping may help too. When we sleep, our brains clean house and get rid of plaques, and our bodies repair from the day's activities. If we are consistently not sleeping well, we're not going to have good stamina, and we will become more and more run down. There are some supplements that may help too. Vitamin D and B12. Vitamin D has been associated with energy levels, and B12 is linked to nerve health. Check with your doctor to get your blood work done, to check your levels and get recommendations for the amounts that are good for you. I use a naturopathic doctor, and I highly recommend working with one. Alexandra asked, have you ever thought of HSCT, and what do you think about coffee in MS? It seems I feel better after it. And you? I don't usually talk about medications or medical procedures on my channel because I'm not a doctor. But since you asked about my thoughts, I'll talk about my thoughts in general. Each of us needs to look at treatments with our doctor and decide on the one that's the most efficacious treatment that we're comfortable with. All treatments have side effects or risks, and we need to decide if we're okay with them. On the flip side, our MS has risks too, so we need to weigh the risks and benefits of treatment and our MS. HSCT, hematopoietic stem cell transplantation, is a highly effective treatment, but it has a lot of serious risks associated with it. Some of them are an increased long-term risk for developing infections, an increased risk of developing cancer, an increased risk of developing other autoimmune conditions, early menopause, fertility problems, increased risk of bleeding and bruising, fatigue, loss of appetite and hair loss, and if we already have a lot of nerve damage, the chemotherapy can do more harm than good. It can also result in death. Some studies show the risk of death as high as 20%, but more recent information is showing it's a bit lower, but it is still a risk. It's also not FDA approved here in the States. It's still in clinical trials. So for me, HSCT is not an option. Okay, coffee. I love this one. I love coffee. My morning routine includes 2 mugs of half caffeine coffee. Caffeine can help boost our energy, and coffee can be anti-inflammatory. But we do need to be careful not to overdo it. I read one study that recommends less than 400 milligrams of caffeine per day, which is 4 to 5 small cups per day for people with MS. My caffeine intake is around 180 milligrams most days. And it's important not to add things to our coffee that may be detrimental. I've already talked about dairy, but sugar can be a problem too. It's very inflammatory and it has no real nutritional value. I drink my coffee black with just a touch of maple syrup in it. I like that maple syrup is less processed than sugar, and it does have some minerals and nutrients. Megan has 3 questions. How did you make the switch to a plant-based diet? Do you get enough protein? Do you eat pasta or a pasta substitute? It was a slow process for me. I was already eating a lot of vegetarian food as my husband was vegetarian when we got married. I had my first relapse in 2006, but I wasn't diagnosed at that time. It did get my attention, though. It really scared me a lot. I decided to take better care of my health, and I started eating more vegetarian and more whole foods. I started researching for information on healthy eating, and I stopped buying unhealthy foods so they weren't in my house anymore. Over the years, I continued to get more education and continued to improve my diet. I had my second relapse in 2016. I got my diagnosis, and I pretty much decided to go whole food plant-based right then. Giving up dairy was the hardest. It is so addictive, but I don't even crave it anymore. I'll put some resources below with links to movies like Forks Over Knives and The Game Changers about the benefits of eating plant-based food, and you might find them helpful. Yes, I get enough protein. As I said in my answer to Cecil earlier, when it comes to your 12-year-old, you can also add more whole grains to help with weight gain, such as oats, sprouted grains, brown rice, and more calorie-dense foods like chickpeas. He might like them roasted with different kinds of spices as a snack. And yes, I do eat pasta. I eat whole grain pasta, not white pasta. You may find that as you eat a more plant-based diet, your gut microbiome will improve and you'll be able to eat pasta without difficulties. If you are indeed gluten sensitive, then pasta substitutes are a wonderful idea. There are some made with chickpeas, lentils, peas, and edamame that are also really high in protein. And soba noodles are made with buckwheat, and they're gluten-free too. Karen asks, how to stop emotions affecting our physical symptoms? I can't stop my emotions affecting my MS symptoms to be in flare-ups and chronic insomnia. And Cassie asks, what about stress management? Busy mom here, working full-time, raising 4 and 8-year-old girls that fight more than they get along. Overstimulated mama here. Excellent questions, Karen and Cassie. There are 4 things I do to help with my emotions and stress management. I practice mindfulness and I meditate daily. I start and end each day with mindful breathing, where I focus on the inhale and exhale of my breath, and I do it with a smile on my face. I also do a guided meditation each morning after my coffee. It is 20 minutes that I take to center myself and set the tone for my day. Right now, I'm using the Deepak Chopra app, but there's a lot of guided meditations out there. Search for one that resonates with you. The next thing I do is I work with a therapist. I have been seeing my therapist for years and years. She's incredibly helpful to me. Having an outside opinion and someone who's trained in techniques to deal with stress is so helpful. Taking care of our mental health is just as important as taking care of our physical health. The third thing I do is I have a supportive community. Mine is through a small circle of friends that I touch base with regularly, and I have fun with regularly too. And I'm a member of a church. The spiritual connection and my community of faith are really helpful for me. It doesn't have to be a church. It can be a supportive MS group, a book club, or a social or community club. The fourth thing I do is to practice good sleep hygiene habits, including dimming the lights in the evening in my house, not eating too close to bedtime, keeping my bedroom cool and dark, and no screens in the bedroom. I recently did a video on sleep that I'll link above and below too. All of these help me with perspective and keeping my emotions in check. and it keeps my stress levels lower, and it allows me to get more peaceful sleep. And do you like videos that answer viewer questions? Let me know in the comments below. And if you have questions that you'd like me to answer in upcoming videos, drop them below too. I enjoy answering questions and helping others to live well with their MS or chronic illness. To see more on living with MS and chronic illness, watch these videos next. To help support this channel and to help it to reach more people, please share this video, like, and subscribe. Until next time, be well.